one.
That's the big one.
All right, I'm going to hit confirm and go live.
All right, hit confirm and go live.
Clicking in 3, 2, 1, click.
Wow. And then it says, do you really want to go live?
Are you sure?
And
No, don't do it.
3, 2, 1, click go live now.
Wow. And then, are we live?
We are so live.
What? Oh my God.
From the Gettysburg Museum of History Studios, you're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. It's 2026, the first Ask a Gettysburg guide of 2026, and we are still alive. Barely, but we are. Welcome to this episode of Ask a Gettysburg Guide. It's, I believe, number 120, and we are talking about Civil War railroads today. Before I introduce our guests, I'd like to introduce the other gentleman in the room here. We've got Court all the way in the back, actually. Court's operating our cameras today. Hello, Courtney.
Hey, Matt.
And Court, one of our listeners who's watching now was very kind. I don't want to embarrass him, so I might not say his name unless he wants to introduce himself in the audience, but was very kind. Last AG Today that we did, Amira was on, and she mentioned she liked a series of books, and this person was very kind and asked me for the address to the studio so he could send those books for Amira, the whole set. She got them, and she loves them.
She loves them. She was so excited that the graphic novels were compiled into one volume, and she's been tearing through them. And
there was a mix-up. Apparently, like the package didn't arrive here. What it turned out to be was that it was sent to the wrong address. Well, it was sent to the right address. It was dropped off at the wrong address. And so in the meantime, I said to this person, hey, you said the package had arrived, but it's not here. So he contacted Amazon, and they sent another one. And then the original arrived. So I donated the other to the library. So there you go.
Very nice.
Okay.
Very nice.
Amira, so there we go.
Amira's in the process of making a thank you card of sorts.
Well, very nice. Don't give away the surprise.
Okay. She's not making anything. I mean,
she's just taking it like she deserved it, right?
Yeah.
Taking it for granted. Mm-hmm. And then also, of course, here monitoring the comments and your behavior in them is the great Mikey B. How are you, Michael?
Matt, I'm great. That was a very heartwarming story about Amira. I wasn't aware of that. Now, for many years, I've always, and I've talked to you about it a lot, I've always wanted, and maybe if someone out there is listening, they can do it for me.
A Ferrari Daytona.
I've always wanted $10,000. and if you made that magic happen for that little girl.
What can we do for this little boy, right?
We're the same size. She can go fight someone and take the book herself.
She could fit in the beaver costume, I think, right?
She could.
Yeah. She could be your stunt double.
$10,000 would be great.
Well, let's see. If somebody asks for the address to the studio, I will give it to them.
You can take 10%.
But it'll be my house. Oh, well then, okay. Yes. Thank you very much. Okay. And then our guest today is the great Rich Kohr, licensed battlefield guide extraordinary. Hello, Rich. How are you?
The great Rich Kohr.
The great Rich Kohr. Yes. Yeah. Once you've been on the show, I think
a certain number of times.
3 times. Okay. You get to be great.
Okay, I understand. It's a little bit like being guide emeritus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't make you wait 30 years.
25 years of,
25
deceiving the American public about what I really know. Okay.
Right. No, you get to be the great after 3
As opposed to, what was he last time? Above average?
He was above average Rich Kohr, and now he's great.
I was mediocre the first time I came here.
Yeah. And there's actually 2 episodes, I think, that I still have in the can from you that
There's
are going to...
at least one. Yeah, I know the Army pay.
Yes.
We still have in the can, and we did the commissary.
We did that one. That's out.
That was live,
okay.
Yep.
So then that's the one in the can, the Army pay.
Yep.
And that is going to come out in the next month or so. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds of this, but I used AI. The editor that I have has an AI thing where it'll figure out, because every camera is its own file, right? Okay. So I put them all in there, and AI figures it, and it figures out who's talking, and it makes the cuts between the cameras on its own. Oh. And it worked, and I couldn't believe it. But then every time there's a cut, there's a black space, because there's this tiny sliver, like second long, of black space
going
between,
from one camera to the next.
So now I have to go in and close all those spaces, and for a 2-hour show,
yeah, that
takes a while. So that's what I'm in the middle of doing, but that will be out soon.
Okay.
Okay, so we're talking about Civil War railroads,
right.
And this is an interesting topic. Years ago, I had seen some short little video on YouTube about Civil War railroads, and I just remember coming away with the feeling that it was a fustercluck. You know,
that's a fairly good assessment of the situation.
Big mess, and so this is going to be fun to talk about because try to make sense of it all, really. Right. And you have extensive notes here. You also have Herman Haupt's book, which we were looking through here. Where did you find this?
Again, I found it online. That website is fantastic. Forgotten Books. They've reprinted all of these forgotten books, hence the name of the company. Okay,
right.
And I was able to order it, and it's incredible.
General Theory of Bridge Construction by Herman Haupt. Sounds like a page turner.
Absolutely.
And
the finest cure for insomnia I have ever read in my life.
Yeah, I just really felt stupid trying to read a paragraph where it explains the formula that he came up with, or I don't know if he came up with it, but the formula that he's trying to teach, and explains what the W stands for, and and I was just like, man, I'm stupid. Like these people are so many smarter people out there. It's
a lot of geometry.
I'm surprised, Matt, because there are pictures in here. I mean, they're images, but I know you do really well when there's pictures in books.
Yes, I do. Well, when I was looking at the pictures,
there's numbers.
That was the problem. But if I ignore the numbers, I could figure out what the picture's telling me. Okay. All right. So go ahead. Let's get started on this one. Where do you want to start with it? Oh, and don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, sorry, if you have a question, 717-420-1978 is the number. Super chats of $10 or more are read on the air. So go ahead.
Okay. Let's start with a statement. You and I spoke about this briefly before we went on air. The Civil War cannot be fought on the scale it's fought without railroads.
Right.
And it's the first war, not just American history, world history, where railroads play this kind of role. Mm-hmm. As far as supplying the armies, moving troops, moving equipment, and what have you. So, the British used railroads briefly during the Crimean War, or just to move supplies from port to the front lines, a couple of miles. We're looking at thousands of miles of railroad being utilized during the course of the Civil War.
So, prior to the Civil War, how many thousands are we talking about?
So we go back to 1840. Okay. Let's back up 20 years. 1840, there's 3,000 miles of railroad in the United States.
All right.
By 1850, there's 9,000 miles of railroad.
Okay.
By 1860, it's increased.
Triple.
That's triple. Exactly.
Thank you, Court.
There's the math guy in the background. Right. I'm a history guy, not a numbers guy. Exactly. And by 1860, it's up to 30,000 miles.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's it is mostly in the East. We don't have the Transcontinental Railroad yet.
Not yet. There are some railroads that do cross over the Alleghenies, to what then they referred to as the West, what we'd call the Midwest today.
Sure.
But probably a bigger factor, though, is the breakdown north and south.
Okay.
So in 1850, it's even. It's a 50-50 split. You got 4,500 miles north, 4,500 miles in the future Confederacy. But by 1860, there's now 9,000 miles of track in the south and 21,000 miles of track in the north.
Wow.
So there's a huge boom in railroad construction in that decade prior to the Civil War.
So in the South, was the purpose of their railroads more to get crops to the ports?
Yep.
So did they have passenger trains?
Oh, yeah.
They did.
Yeah. Okay. So some railroads, that was their bread and butter, was passenger business. And freight business was secondary. But a lot of the southern railroads, and the term that I've seen used is market railroads. Mm-hmm. So it's taking a commodity like cotton or tobacco or sugar or rice from where it's being grown to a port where it's going to be sold and shipped overseas, or to a broker who's going to sell it at a larger community.
Okay.
And the northern railroads are not quite as commodity driven. They're more connecting places, right? We're going from city to city.
Yeah.
Whereas the southern railroads are typically relatively short mileage. Those they might 20 miles, 30 miles, maybe 50 miles. You don't see the railroads extending for hundreds of miles in the Confederacy, with a couple of exceptions.
Okay. So if I were to want to go from, I'm doing a few episodes on another podcast as a guest, and it's going to come out on Valentine's Day. So we're talking about North and South, the TV series.
Okay.
And so we did the first 2 episodes of North and South a couple of nights ago, and Ori Main, the Patrick Swayze character,
right.
He's in South Carolina. He's taking a train up to West Point.
Right.
Okay. How many times would he had to have changed trains? I mean, I know you don't have an exact
I don't know
count.
exactly, but I would say at least half a dozen times.
Yeah.
Because he's probably going to go from, Charleston, maybe to North Carolina. He's going to have to change trains in North Carolina. Then he might go to Richmond, have to change trains there. Go to Baltimore, change trains there.
But it's still faster than horseback.
Oh, yeah. And this is one of the things that this expansion of railroads does, is it gives people mobility in a reasonable time period.
Yeah.
So, for example, in 1850, before railroads extend out west to Chicago, if you were traveling from Chicago to New York City, it would take nearly a month.
Okay.
And once the railroad link is completed, which is in 1858, we're talking 2 days. So, it really does create this much more mobile society.
Yeah, okay.
And the ability to move products and move people.
Yeah, okay.
Pre-railroads, everything you bought was manufactured locally, right? But once the railroads come into the play, you're starting to see businesses being able to sell. We're a meat packer in Chicago, and we can sell our meat in New York or Philadelphia.
Right. So while the South is sending what they're growing to ports for the most part with their railroads, what are they using it for in the North?
It's for commerce. It really is for commerce.
So both of them
and moving people and moving people.
But would it be moving people secondary to commerce?
It depends on the railroad. Like some railroads in New England, they made more revenue on passenger business.
Okay.
Than they did on freight. Railroads that are connecting the Midwest to the East Coast, it's more freight.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and I should mention one other thing, because this I never thought about this, but it really kind of got my attention when I was doing some of the research for this. When they have this huge boom of railroad construction in the 1850s, this is going to impact the manpower that's available when the war begins.
Okay.
Because the railroads in the South are being built by slave labor for the most part. Railroads in the North, when they have this, massive amount of railroad trackage being built, the labor market isn't there to do the work. So they have to bring in immigrants from Europe who are mostly white males of military age. So when you look at the 1850 versus 1860 census, 1850, you've got roughly 1.3 million white males, military age, living in the South.
Okay.
A little over 3 million in the North. And by 1860, the Southern white male population hasn't changed that much.
Right.
The Northern white population has roughly doubled.
Okay.
Of males in military age.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the huge manpower advantage the North has, some of that you can attribute to the fact that they built all these railroads in the 1850s.
Okay. All right. They are important to the war then.
They are important to the war.
Yeah.
And it's, that big difference between the North and the South, if you just look locally, the fact that New Oxford, which by no means was a large town, that's where the station that eventually, the tracks that eventually come to Gettysburg went through New Oxford first.
Right.
Yeah.
These aren't massive populated towns.
No.
But New Oxford, Gettysburg, they're all getting, 1858, I think, is when the railroad comes here?
Yeah. So and that's a good example, because as we were talking about this briefly, that railroad that comes through Hanover and New Oxford and ultimately to Gettysburg ties into a larger railroad at Hanover Junction. And that railroad is north-south. And that railroad goes from Baltimore to Harrisburg and points north. So now you can go by train from Gettysburg to Baltimore within a matter of a few hours, right? Which you would not have been able to do, to make that trip before the railroad was constructed.
Right. So, and that was without changing trains, right?
Right. Now here, right. So this is where it gets, I guess this is where, we have, This
is where we go off the rails.
Well, but yeah, and almost literally.
Hey.
We talk about, we were talking briefly about gauge.
Yes.
Which, for those of you who aren't, railroad people, who were like, what the hell is he talking about gauge? Okay.
Right.
It's the distance between the rails.
Yeah.
Yeah. And today we use what's referred to as standard gauge. It's 4 foot 8.5 inches. So if we would walk down to Carlisle Street to the railroad station with a tape measure and measure the distance between the rails, it's 4 foot 8.5 inches. And you see that almost universally throughout the United States and North America. Okay. And one of the myths is that the southern railroads don't interact, they don't interchange because they have different gauges. And the North is standardized. No, nobody is standardized in 1860, okay? We have a dozen different gauges in use by railroad companies, both North and South, at the time of the Civil War.
And that's because each company, they just decide whatever they're going to do based on what it's affordable.
It's when railroads first began to appear in North America, they actually used standard gauge. They use what we use today.
Okay.
And that's because the English use standard gauge.
Okay.
And the first railroad equipment is brought in from England. And then, we started playing around with it and went like, well, okay, it's 4 foot 8.5 inches. Well, that's a weird number. Let's go to 5 foot. Let's go to 4 foot 10. Well, let's make it a little narrower. Let's go to 4.6. You eventually have some railroads that go as wide as 6 feet between the rails. And, the wider it is, the more stable your freight cars are. They're not as top end.
Right.
But you also need a wider right of way where you have to have more clearance on either side of the tracks. There's all this different experimentation with different gauges.
So if they make the gauge wider, the 6 foot one, for example, are they just? So are they building the locomotives and the cars to a 6 foot gauge, or are they they are okay. Yes. So so that means then that the box cars, for example, everything is going to be pretty wide. Yeah. It's not just the wheels.
Yeah. Apparently this is one of the reasons why railroads in the Deep South did adopt the 5 foot gauge, is that you could make the box car just a touch wider than a 4 foot 8.5 inch gauge railroad. Mm-hmm. And you could fit an extra row of cotton bales in there.
Okay.
So that's why they adopted that gauge.
That makes sense.
So there's a lot of local, reasons, and I think just people just experimenting.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Still new. It's still kind of a new.
Yeah. Remember, railroading is still, kind of in its infancy, kind of matures during the Civil War.
Yeah.
You look at early railroads like 1830 stuff, and these are like some of the weirdest steampunk looking contraptions you've ever seen, and you're starting to see trains looking smaller, but like what we see today,
right?
By the Civil War period.
Yeah. Okay. What else?
So, well, and just to elaborate a little bit more on the gauge, they kept experimenting with this even after the Civil War, to the point where by 1880, there's 23 separate gauges in use.
Wow.
In railroads in North America. That's when they went back to standard gauge.
Okay.
So they went back and adopted the 4 foot 8.5 as the standard gauge.
There's 23 different gauges, ranging from what's the smallest to the largest.
The smallest would have been 2 foot gauge.
2 foot.
2 foot.
The hell was it for like kids parties?
No,
it's for people like me. Normal train.
Yeah.
You had areas that might have been a little bit more rugged, more mountainous, difficult terrain. They built narrow gauge.
Okay.
So they built like 2 foot. They built 30 inches. They built 3 foot, 42 inches.
But what are you carrying on a 2 foot?
A lot of it was commodities like lumber, coal.
Okay.
Mineral traffic.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, not people.
Not people. No, they actually do carry some. I mean, it's kind of amazing, but they're these very narrow passenger cars, and
they'd have 2 feet.
Yeah. You can still ride 2 foot gauge today up in Maine. There's a couple that have been restored as tourist lines.
Do you know the names of the?
The Wiscasset Waterville, and Farmington.
Wiscasset. Let's see how close I come to that.
Okay.
Wiscasset. What was it?
Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington.
Waterville and Farmington. I forgot the A in Farmington. Farmington. All right, let's see. How close? At least I got the W right. Okay, so and that's a 2-foot gauge.
That's a 2-foot gauge.
Look at that. And it looks like, yeah, you can put people in that.
It looks like full-size trains, just at a little bit smaller scale than you would expect.
It's like what you would ride at Disney World or something.
Yeah, exactly.
It almost
Which is 3-foot gauge, incidentally. The railroad around Disney World is 3-foot gauge. Yeah.
It almost looks like something on a movie or television set.
Yeah.
Right? Like on the camera, it looks like a normal thing until you put a man standing next to it. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, oh, that's a smaller train. That's pretty cool. I want one of those for my backyard. This guy lives down the street from me. He has, I'm going to guess it looks about that width. I'm going to say it's a 2-foot, maybe a 3-foot gauge. Now I'm going to say 2. Track goes around his house into his backyard, around the front of like, all the way through, and he's got a switcher track that goes into the garage.
Okay.
I have not seen what he does with it yet, but I'm dying to meet this guy and get a ride on that train. That's the coolest thing in the world, and I'm going to ask him to will it to me so I can put it in my yard.
There you go.
All right, what else?
Okay, so we covered what? We covered gauge, that sort of thing. The reason that you have all these different gauges is and this is what we kind of alluded to with the North and South, the TV series, is the fact that in a lot of cases railroads don't actually physically connect. So they don't. So having a 4-foot 8.5 inch and a 5-foot gauge serving the same town, it was kind of standard practice where you would take the freight from one railroad, put it in a wagon, haul it across town, put it in the freight on another railroad, and then send it to the next destination.
Okay.
And passengers would have to do the same thing. They'd have to change trains somewhere.
So that sounds like a pain in the ass.
It is.
But again, we have to remember the improvement that was in travel and in freight.
Right.
Travel, whatever the word is for
and at this point, you're seeing
shipping.
Railroads are kind of, they're not viewing themselves as part of a network.
Right.
They're viewing themselves as, I own a railroad that goes from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Matt owns a railroad that goes from B to C. I'm not going to let him take my boxcar to its final destination.
Right.
Because I don't know if I can trust him to send my boxcar back to me.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So they eventually
Probably
work out
wouldn't.
these rules and regulations, and railroads start to connect and that sort of thing. But at the time of the Civil War, that was fairly unusual to have railroads interchanging. Now we're starting to see more of it in the years immediately prior to the Civil War because, just like you said, when it's a huge pain to have to unload and transfer this stuff to another railroad, especially when you're dealing with bulk commodities, stuff like grain and corn and stuff that's not in boxes, right? So we're starting to see more interchange amongst railroads. You're seeing it more so in the North first. There was 4 southern railroads that did interconnect, starting in Virginia and going out to Tennessee and northern Alabama at the time of the Civil War. But that's kind of a rarity.
So it was that the railroads were regional, or would they perhaps, like in the South, like they have a purpose. They all have a purpose, right? But today,
in the South, it would be more of a local commerce type of thing.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
right. I mean, you do see railroads that go long distance, like long haul.
Yeah,
are referred to as trunk lines.
Okay.
And by 1860, you've got 5 trunk lines that run from the eastern part of the United States and cross the Alleghenies. And one is that 4 southern railroads that link up.
And where does it terminate?
The eastern terminus, I think, was Lynchburg, Virginia. The western terminus was Stevenson, Alabama.
Oh.
Okay. But it also went into Tennessee and by Chattanooga, and then that sort of thing.
That must have been a nightmare back then. It probably still is today, but building a railroad through mountains.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
And that's part of it is you're dealing with, it's one thing to build it in flatlands, okay, but when you start getting into the mountainous territory, because railroads don't do well with steep climbs.
Right.
On a railroad, a steep grade is like 2.5%.
Right. But
which is 2.5 feet for every 100 feet of linear railroad. Because you're dealing with, virtually, it's not a rubber tire on a road. Mm-hmm. It's a steel wheel on a steel rail. Right? So yeah, when you look at a lot of these railroads, they loop and bend and wind around to keep the grade reasonable. Or if you really have the money, you dig a tunnel.
Yeah.
But that's another whole engineering process.
Oh, well, because it's like rock,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Dig a tunnel,
right? For
sure,
right. So let me just elaborate a little bit more on those trunk lines because I mentioned there's 5 of them. One of them is the Baltimore and Ohio, and Colt mentioned the Baltimore and Ohio before we started. The Baltimore and Ohio is unique because it serves both Union and future Confederate territory.
Okay, yeah.
So it runs in Maryland and in Virginia, east-west. And, of course, that's going to become an issue once Virginia secedes. You also have the Pennsylvania Railroad. Now, that's the big one.
Yeah.
Between the Pennsylvania Railroad itself and then associated lines that had, common financial interests. That goes from New York to Chicago. Okay. And there, we have to get across the mountains. That's where the horseshoe curve comes in. The horseshoe curve was designed to keep the grade reasonable enough that they could get over the mountain.
Okay. Yeah. Because you're not going straight up the mountain.
No, you're not going straight up the mountain.
You have to do like a serpentine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you had the Erie Railroad and the New York Central, which both operated in New York State. And the Erie connected with the steamboat line on Lake Erie that then continued out to Detroit.
It's amazing. It really is impressive because I remember a few years ago I had to go out and a little further west out on 30, and I had to go up over the mountains. And I just remember thinking as I'm going up in comfort in my car, right, with no sweat off my brow to get up there. My car, on the other hand, was not thanking me, but I'm getting up there with ease. But somebody had to go up over those things first and
figure out the grades, survey this, acquire the land, then grade it,
and hope you're actually building a road that's going where you think it's going. Yeah. That's a lot of smarts.
Yeah.
And again, going back to that book, I ain't got them.
No, I looked at those equations and they just. The statement I made to you is this looks like something that they pulled off the ship at Roswell. It's like, just this, abstract conglomeration of lines and drawings and letters and numbers and exactly, what does this mean?
It absolutely does look like not even foreign country language, foreign planet language.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's why I'm not an engineer.
No, that's why that's why I talk about the Battle of Gettysburg for a living.
All right. So what else?
Okay. So, so we get to the war. Okay. Secession begins, states are breaking away. And now as, we're at that point of, actual having hostilities, people start to recognize some of the drawbacks that we were just talking about, which is these railroads don't connect. So it's becoming difficult to move troops, to move supplies.
Yeah.
And there's actually attempts made in 1861 in Virginia to start to tie some of these railroads together. Mm. And there's 2 major initiatives. One was to build a connection in the Shenandoah Valley between Winchester, Virginia, and Strasburg, Virginia, which is roughly 17 miles. And what that would have done is created a continuous rail link from Harper's Ferry to Richmond. But it never gets built.
Okay.
And the same thing with the other initiative, which was to start connecting the railroads that came into Petersburg and also into Richmond that didn't physically connect. Let's connect these things. And part of the reason, and it's just fascinating stuff, there's columns in the newspapers in Virginia in 1861 of the legislature arguing about whether or not they should, upgrade these railroads. And the arguments typically come down to four things. Number one is it a military necessity? Okay, you see guys saying, well, if it's a military necessity, I'll vote for it. But if it's an expedient, I won't.
Okay.
So they're splitting.
That sounds fair.
Okay. And they're sending letters to Robert E. Lee. Is it a military necessity that we build this railroad, or can you do without it? Right. Who will pay? That's the second issue. Who's going to pay the bill? Is it going to be, because they're looking at this and going, hey, wait, if the government pays for this, and is it going to be the state government, or is it going to be the Confederate States of America paying for it? Isn't this going to benefit the railroad company? Shouldn't they foot the bill? So who's going to pay for this? Right? And how will we pay for it? Are we going to float a loan? Are we going to put a bond out there? How are we going to do this? Third question, is it going to be permanent or temporary connection? So temporary.
It's an interesting.
Yeah, so basically if it's permanent, it's more expensive. If it's temporary, okay, we can just, lay some ties down, slap some rails on top of them, connect the two railroads, and then when the war's over, we'll tear it up, and we don't have to do the grading and all this other good stuff.
It's so government.
It is.
Because if it's permanent, then it's more expensive, but we will have it after the war is over.
And the railroad trains themselves will be able to go faster on a permanent connection than they can on a poorly built temporary connection,
right?
Where you run the risk of them derailing every 100 yards, right?
Yeah.
Right.
God.
And then here's my favorite one. And this is, I took some heat after I did the commissary program here.
Did you?
Yeah, because I was too hard on the South.
Oh God! Who gave you?
I don't know, but hopefully they're not listening now because it's going to get worse.
It was somebody in the comments section.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Because,
well, those are what we call professional Southerners. Okay,
right.
and they just
Because this is my favorite argument that the South had in 1861 about expanding their railroad system.
Okay,
we don't need to. The war will be over before we get it done.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Yeah, and guess what? They never did it.
They never did it. So they could have won the war.
Well, I don't know if they could have won the war, but it would have been easier to move supplies and troops, right?
Just trying to help your Southern
exactly.
commenters there.
Right.
Well, real quick, Mike, you got questions here from the audience?
We had two questions.
All right.
Since we're speaking about the war itself now in some ways. They kind of go together. So one was asking about the prevalence of coal bombs and sabotage.
Oh, okay.
And to piggyback off that, other people were asking about what kind of protection of defenses were used to prevent that kind of sabotage. Now, I'm familiar with coal torpedoes, but I assume that's kind of
it's the same thing. It's the same thing. I'll be honest. I've never seen, and I'm not saying it didn't happen, I've never seen it being used to sabotage a railroad. I know it was used to sabotage ships and things like that. But yeah, it was just basically explosives disguised as a hunk of coal. Reason it's probably not used very much on railroads. Most railroads at that time were wood burners.
There you go.
Whereas the ships are burning
coal. And how they would kind of hollow out that coal, right?
Yeah.
And then just basically, I think,
put C4 inside it. And then
C4. They had C4 back then?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know, like that.
Just learned something new.
That's right, exactly.
The Sultana, I know that they were talking about. They speculated that.
Yeah, that's right.
They did a whole inquiry and decided that wasn't it.
That's right. Yeah. What was the second question?
That was tied in, or it was what was used to protect trains and tracks.
Oh, protect trains. Okay. Okay. So let's go back to the Baltimore and Ohio. Right. The Baltimore and Ohio Railroad eventually, and it doesn't happen until Stanton comes in, because when Cameron is Secretary of War, he has money invested in the Pennsylvania Railroad and also the Northern Central, which was a railroad that connected with the Pennsy. He's trying to divert traffic to his railroad. So even though the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad is vulnerable to Confederate attacks, he's not providing protection. So the president of the Baltimore and Ohio, William Garrett, is basically saying, look, I need troops to protect my railroad. And Cameron's not helping him. Later in the war, they do build blockhouses at the different bridges, at junctions. They actually established what they called the Railroad Division, which was responsible for protecting the Baltimore and Ohio. But early on, During Cameron's tenure, you don't see much of that happening.
And that kind of brings my own question, and maybe we'll get to it eventually, but since we're talking about protecting railroads, and obviously these are private railroads being used now for a national business, how are they compensating? How is the government compensating them for, especially in the North, all that use of their railroads?
Well, they're paying rates. Okay, so one of the things that Cameron did right, Cameron does a lot of things wrong, the Secretary of War, okay, but one of the things that he does right is he brought in a professional railroader as Assistant Secretary of War. And this is Thomas Scott. He was the superintendent of the Pennsylvania Railroad. And Scott, he's a railroad guy. He knows all these other railroad executives. And one of the things that Scott does is he sets up a rate structure where railroads in the North are going to be paid more for government shipments than they will be paid for private business. And this, of course, is incentive then for those railroads to cooperate and work with the government and prioritize their shipments. So, and this sets a precedent. We're going to get into it more when we get into the U.S. military railroads and such. But one of the things that the North does is they consistently bring in railroad managers, experienced railroad people, and put them in positions of authority in the War Department running the railroads, managing the railroads. Yeah. And that's a huge plus for the North, especially as the war goes on.
So you mentioned that the locomotives were wood burning and not coal.
Yeah.
What was like the top speed of a wood burning locomotive?
For a freight train, probably about 15 miles per hour.
Wow.
Sometimes you can bump it up to 20.
Wow.
Passenger trains, 30 to 40 miles per hour.
So it would have taken a lot to get it up to 88 miles an hour.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
1.21 gigawatts.
That's another generation after the Civil War.
That's true. That's true. And that was coal then, right?
That was coal.
Yeah. Exactly. But okay, so that's still, but again, it's progress.
It's progress.
Right? It's better than oxen or mule-drawn carts.
And you're starting to see some coal burners, like for example, usually in railroads that hold coal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
no,
so you're starting to see some of those railroads,
like in coal country?
Like maybe? In coal country. Yeah. Like the Reading Railroad, this is then called the Philadelphia and Reading, ran up into anthracite country here in Pennsylvania. They started burning coal. The Baltimore and Ohio is tapping coal mines in western Pennsylvania and what is now West Virginia. They start using coal in some of their locomotives. So, so you start to see,
Okay, good. Yep. Actually, you just reminded me of something there, Court. Our buddy Cameron Mallow, he used to do this for us all the time on the show. That was his voice.
All right.
That was actually his voice.
COPD.
Jeez.
That was a 440 American steam locomotive.
That's right.
There you
exactly
go.
What that was.
Which was the most common locomotive used during the Civil War.
Really?
Yeah. Now, ask me what that means. What does 440 mean? Right?
That's the model number.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, 440. You have 4 pilot wheels, which basically support the front of the boiler, and 4 driving wheels.
Got it. So the driving ones are the big ones.
The big ones. And you have no trailing wheels.
So nothing in the back
under the cab. Right. Now, as locomotives keep getting bigger after the war, then we
need them.
Right. 462, 482, 484.
Okay, so that's what those numbers mean.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
One of the people here, and I might as well ask you. This is a little off topic, but one of the people who was Susan Wall sent in a lot of people, by the way, vying for a 6-question Lentz's position. I was the man with 6 questions. Several people sent in 6 questions, but her 6th question is: do you enjoy riding on Amtrak or any tourist lines today? And are any of the AG family train buffs? I particularly relish riding behind steam, but I find any rail trip worthwhile. Start with you.
Okay, I mean I've taken Amtrak, more local kind of stuff, like from Harrisburg to Philly, that kind of thing. Right. I mean it's
all right.
It's all right. Yeah. It's all right. It beats driving.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
I love, the excursion rides behind steam. And we're really fortunate being in this area. If that's the kind of thing you really want to do,
there's places to go.
There's a whole bunch of them within an hour's drive of here.
Yeah. I would like to do one of those like sleeper car. Amtrak, like a cross country. Yeah, thing, I would love to do that. Yeah. We did Amtrak from Newark to some, I guess, Williams, whatever the closest location station is in Williamsburg, Virginia, and it was long and interesting. Going down the coast that way. Right. We were kids though. I just remember a bunch of French exchange students came on. And the combination of cigarette smoke and body odor was unbearable. It's just like we were all throwing deodorant at them.
It's no smoking now on the trains, but I don't know if they have a no body odor zone. Okay,
no, unfortunately not. I'll take the secondhand smoke.
Right,
just wear deodorant.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, but back on track, no pun intended,
so to speak.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm sorry. So, how about you? Do you like trains there for Susan? You love them? Courtney?
Did you say for Susan?
Susan asked that question.
I know.
Yeah.
No, I like trains. I mean, when I was in England, all I did was take trains.
Oh, that's true. The loo, as they call it there, right? What do they call it over there?
Yeah. The train?
The train.
The tube.
That's the subway.
Is the subway.
That's the subway. They call it the underground.
The underground. Whatever. Court, what about you?
I like to...
Move it.
Well, and also park at Rockville, take the metro to Foggy Bottom, walk on over to Georgetown, have some food, take the train back out.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay. You like the subterranean...
Yeah. Well, some of it's above ground.
Some of it is. Mm-hmm. You're not lying.
Mm-hmm. And then
but it goes underground. Yeah. Wow. That's interesting. Yeah. I like them. I do like train rides. Have you gone on the new Gettysburg Railway? Yeah. That's pretty cool.
It's a nice ride.
It is a nice ride. And those seats they have in there are very comfortable. Mm-hmm. Very comfortable. Yep. I can fall asleep in them.
I hail from a place.
We all do.
Billy, that's Billy Joel talks about.
From a town known as Wheeling, West Virginia. That one? Yeah.
That's one and the same. And we have quite the railroad culture there. And we are very aware, and by we, I mean probably 3 or 4 of us, of West Virginia's role in the Civil War, brought about mostly because of the railroads that ran through. Yeah.
And what are the local opinions of the Swamp Dragons?
Well, they love them.
Do they?
Mm-hmm. They're like, those cavalrymen protecting the people and the things through the place. And so, and the guerrillas. And then the trains.
The trains.
Oh, the trains.
They love the trains. They love the Swamp Dragons.
They say, trains, well...
All right. I'm sorry. We knocked you off the rails. Okay. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. So Kohr just mentioned Wheeling.
Yeah.
And Wheeling was the western terminus of the Baltimore and Ohio. And we talked about how the Baltimore and Ohio is vulnerable. May of 1861, we have what I call the Civil War's version of the Great Train Robbery. And this is not the great, the locomotive chase that everybody has heard of. This is where Virginia militia, under the command of the future Stonewall Jackson, because nobody's calling him Stonewall in May of 1861,
right?
Literally steals 30 steam locomotives from the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad.
30.
Oh,
there's a painting of this, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
I know this story. Yeah,
and what basically, you guys know about it?
Yeah, you never saw that? I'll pull up the painting.
Yeah, and what about Kohr?
No.
Kohr, have you ever heard of that? Okay. What had happened is, and this is after the Virginia militia seizes Harper's Ferry.
Right.
And that's where the B&O drops down into Virginia, now West Virginia, and runs on the south side of the Potomac for about 35, 40 miles and then recrosses out near Cumberland, Maryland. The Confederates allowed traffic to continue. And the president of Baltimore and Ohio, he realizes, I got to play ball with these guys because otherwise they're going to shut down my railroad. Mm-hmm. So the one stipulation that Southerners had is that they couldn't have military shipments, coming through that area.
Sure.
Right. Well, and the timeline on here is a little murky as to, when this all starts, but it's over a period of a few weeks. Somewhere in here, Jackson decides that the trains are keeping his men up at night.
Okay.
Because they're running 24 hours a day. So he requests that the Baltimore and Ohio stop running trains overnight through the section of the railroad that's in Virginia. And they agree. So what you'd have is a situation where on either side of this blockaded section of railroad, trains would be stacking up overnight. And then once the Confederates reopen the railroad, you've got this steady parade of trains going in both directions. And it's a double track line, so they can, move through there safely.
Right.
Well, May the 21st, I think it's the 21st, Jackson reopens the railroad, trains start running, and then he shuts the railroad down again. And he's trapped over 30 freight trains in this section of the railroad.
Wow.
And they destroy freight equipment, they tear up rails and haul them south to Manassas and eventually to Richmond. They tore up over 37 miles of rail.
Now, when you say 30 freight trains, are you saying a locomotive and 30 cars, or 29 cars?
I'm talking about 30, a locomotive, probably 10 cars, another locomotive, and 10 cars. I'm talking 30 trains.
30 separate trains.
Exactly. That are trapped in this section of the railroad.
That's a lot. That's
a lot. Yeah. And then what Jackson does, and this is the famous painting.
Yeah, which I'm having a hard time. Do you know the name of the painting?
I don't. But anyway, what they basically did is they disassembled steam locomotives.
Okay, that's this one.
Partly disassembled them, took the wheels off and that kind of thing, put them on wagons, dragged them down the Valley Pike because there's that gap in the railroad between Winchester and Strasburg. And then once they got them to Strasburg, they reassembled them and sent them on to Richmond.
So, Kohr, you can go to this here, and I can't blow it up any higher or any larger. Is this the one we're talking about?
That's one. Yeah, see the wheels?
Yes.
The wheels have been removed.
Yes.
You see the teams of oxen there, and there's a steam locomotive that's...
Yeah,
you can see
it looks like he's pulling the light, like the oxen are pulling the light that goes on. No.
Well, what they're doing is they're pulling the locomotive. That's the boiler without the front portion, the smoke box on it.
Yeah. Are you talking here?
The second one.
The second one?
Yeah.
That one?
Yep.
Okay.
Who's lifting those barbells?
Yeah, exactly.
But you see on this card here, it looks like, see the light here? Is that the light?
That's the light.
Yeah. So they got that on this card off of this train
and you
here.
can see on that forward train, you can see the pilot, what people commonly call the cow catcher, is there on the ground. You can see the wheels on the ground. So that's one that's being disassembled.
Wow.
For movement.
What a cool event that I remember I saw this painting and I go, what the hell is this? I'd never heard of this before. And then I hadn't thought about it until you just brought it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
and there's a reason the Southerners are doing this, because we just talked about all this railroad construction in the North. That's where all the equipment's manufactured.
Yeah.
So there's 19 foundries that manufactured steam locomotives in 1860. 18 of them were in the North.
So, God, I would have thought twice about starting this war.
Yeah, well, exactly. This is the thing. I mean, there's no strategic plan here.
No.
So the one foundry in the South that manufactures steam locomotives is Tredegar in Richmond.
Right.
They're not making locomotives when the war starts.
No.
They're making artillery, right?
Yeah.
So there isn't a single steam locomotive manufactured in the southern states.
So they just can't. They just can't really break away. Like they need us.
Yeah.
Up in the North.
Yeah.
I mean, us. You know what I mean?
Well, no.
No, it's us. It's us.
all the southern viewers just tuned out.
All two of them.
All two of them.
No, we have southern viewers. Most of them are very rational people. They are our viewers.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. But no, you're absolutely right.
Commenters.
I mean, they're not thinking in terms of how are we going to keep these railroads running? How are we going to repair railroads?
Yeah.
How are we going to, stuff wears out. Right.
Right. Yeah, that's right. You got to maintain it.
Now, how much of that do you think might have been the fact that, like you mentioned, this is the first war that's fought through railroads? How much of it is not necessarily maybe blissful ignorance of this is going to be a bigger factor than we think it's going to be?
I think that might be part of it. I think part of it is this mindset that the war is not going to last very long. So we don't have to worry about this stuff. A length of rail had a lifespan of approximately 3 years. We're good. Okay, the war's not going to last 3 years, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So I think there's even one. Apparently, there were some people that were bringing this up as like, hey, we might want to think about, the railroad infrastructure in the South. And one Richmond newspaper actually says, well, we don't need railroads. We don't need them because we have rivers.
Okay, but
which is great until the fighting moves away from the river, right?
Right. So the railroads will bring the rivers closer to you, right? So, okay. Why does it seem to me that when it comes to, and I know there were plenty of new ideas in the North, in the Ken Burns Civil War movie, there's that section about all these wackadoodle inventions that people brought to the government, and the guy on the pontoons, so he could walk across the water, row across the water, standing up.
Incidentally, that was invented by Henry Haupt.
Oh, was
railroad
it?
Guy.
Okay.
Yeah. Haupt has some brilliant stuff, and he's got some right on. There's that fine line between genius and raving nut job, and sometimes he crosses that line.
But that's you gotta try them all until
see what works and what doesn't. Right?
Yeah, it's what everybody else says is the genius part, right? It's all genius, but can people recognize it anyway? All those wacky inventions and everything. It seems though, even though a lot were rejected, it seems that, the good ones were adopted in the North, by the United States.
Yep.
In the South, there seems to be this attitude that is, what do they call it? Troglodytes? It's is that the word I'm looking for? There's this attitude of
I was worried I was going to be hard on the South here. Now I feel much, much better.
I'm not trying to be. I'm not trying. And by the way, I'm not talking about you out there whose great whatever was a private in the 15th Alabama. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking the idiots that make the decisions at the top. Mm-hmm. Okay? There's plenty of them in the United States. Back then and now and every day in between.
Sure.
But because this isn't the only time we've been on here where we've done some comparisons to systems in the North and in the South. And there is it's almost like in the South, you had to believe in a fairy tale land. It's well, we don't need that down here because we're Southern gentlemen.
And I think that's part of it.
Yeah. And we don't need railroads because we have rivers. What? But meanwhile, the North,
we don't need no book learning.
Maybe that's why they couldn't read Herman Haupt's book and understand it.
That's possible.
I mean, and I'm with you on that one, South. I can't understand that book either. But you know what I mean?
I think there is. I think they're trying to be choose my words carefully. Okay. Averse to technology. How's that?
Yeah.
Is that a way to put it?
Technology, change.
Yeah.
Change.
Yeah. And the North is willing to try different stuff.
Yeah.
And I think you see that even in the decade prior to the Civil War. I mean, there's a reason these railroads are expanding throughout the North is that, people are embracing this new technology. Where in the South, they kind of have this idea of, okay, a railroad serves this purpose, and they're not thinking beyond.
Yes, right. Like this is, a lot of times people here in Gettysburg complain that the attitude here in a lot of ways is, well, this is how we've done it for 40 years. Mm-hmm. Why would we change it now?
Well, that's the attitude in business in some cases.
It is, and those businesses learn that the hard way, that's not the way to be, right? But so if you look at it the South are the people that say, well, this is the way it's been for 40 years. Mm-hmm. The North is yes, but it no longer works. So let's move forward with this.
Well, and I think part of it is also is the whole states' rights, weak central government theory in the South versus a much stronger central government in the North. So you're not going to see, the Confederate government interfering with private business.
Yeah.
You're not going to see the Confederate government saying, look, I don't care what you guys think, you're connecting these two railroads, right?
Yeah.
We're doing this. That's just not the way it's done.
I was just going to suggest that too, is the fact that the thought process, again, generally speaking, is much more connected to fourscore and, however many years ago of the 1770s, of those states being their own bodies of decision making, of their own semi-countries that are, united as states. Whereas in the North, it seems everything almost as if the railroad kind of brought it all together.
Yeah, I think it does.
Those businesses are now operating in multi-state places as a national thing, where down south it's still very localized.
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Now, having said all of that, for the first year, I would say the South uses railroads more effectively than the North does.
So that's what I wanted to get into. So Manassas.
Manassas is a perfect example.
Yeah.
I mean, you're moving troops, from the Shenandoah Valley to Manassas by rail in time to participate in the battle.
Right. Innovative.
Right. You're moving troops from Manassas to the peninsula.
Yeah.
From the peninsula back to Manassas.
Right.
Right. So yeah, we really see 1861, 62, the South is using the limited railroad network they have very effectively. Mm-hmm. And the largest movement of troops during the war, and this is probably going to surprise some people, and maybe it's just because I'm not as well versed in the Western theater as I am in the Eastern theater, but the largest troop movement of troops during the war is not Longstreet's troops being moved west. It's not the 11th and 12th Corps being moved to the west. The largest troop movement by rail is Braxton Bragg in 1862, when he moves 30,000 men from northern Mississippi to Chattanooga prior to invading Kentucky.
How many trips would that have taken? They can't all go at once.
No,
right?
they can't all go at once.
No.
But there's an even bigger problem.
What?
It's
Chattanooga.
It's where the Southern railroads go, because they're moving from northern Mississippi, roughly around the Corinth area, to Chattanooga, which is about 225 miles. But it was a 750-mile trip by rail. Because they had to go...
Talk about the long way home.
Right. Okay. They had to go from Mississippi down to Mobile, ferry these guys across Mobile Bay.
Okay.
Go from Mobile to Atlanta, change trains in Atlanta, go from Atlanta to Chattanooga.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Because there was no direct route.
There was no direct route.
So they had to take that circuitous route.
Right.
But had they listened to the people who said maybe we should build a
direct route
they might have,
that connects Chattanooga and Corinth, and maybe.
But meanwhile, how does not maybe meanwhile, but throughout the war, how is the North utilized? Because so the South in the beginning, Manassas, they use the trains to move Jackson's men in and everybody else, and it's whoa. You got us, right?
Yeah.
And it was, look at us, we were so smart. We outsmarted those Yankees and all that other stuff. And then what? They fell asleep? Like what happened? Or did the North just have a better...
The North figured it out. First of all, they got rid of Cameron. So that's step one, okay? And then, I was talking to one of the other guides about this recently, that there's this never-ending argument in the Civil War community about the turning point of the war, right? Gettysburg, Antietam, Vicksburg, right? And
yes.
The more I've looked into this topic, the more I've come to the conclusion that the true turning point of the war is January the 30th, 1862.
Okay, why?
Okay, because that is the day that Congress passes and Lincoln signs the Railway and Telegraph Act. Now, what is the Railway and Telegraph Act? Okay, first of all, it gives the federal government the power to take over a railroad if they feel that it needs to be done.
Aha.
So now we have the carrot and the stick, right? The carrot is, if you play ball, you're going to make a lot of money. The stick is, if you screw around, we're taking over your railroad.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
But the second half of this act creates the U.S. military railroads as a separate department within the War Department. It's not part of the Quartermaster Department. It's a separate independent agency. And this is a huge turning point as far as the North utilizing railroads.
Military railroads specifically for the purposes of military use.
Right.
How are they developing that? Are they laying down track, or are they borrowing existing track?
It's an evolution. Okay. So it starts in 1862 with 7 miles of track in Alexandria.
Okay.
That's what they originally are running.
It's a start.
Yeah. By the end of the war, 2,105 miles of track. Operate, and part of it is they're in some cases building their own railroad, a railroad that did not exist. But in many cases, they're taking over the operation of a railroad for military purposes. So by the end of the war, the United States military railroads will operate portions of 17 different railroads in Virginia, Maryland, and Pennsylvania alone. Then when we factor in southern states, another 23 different railroads come under their control.
How did they handle the railroads in occupied territory?
They just took them over.
Yeah.
They just ran them.
Oh yeah, well that makes sense.
And there's a process here. I mean, there's a learning curve. Okay, so and there's a couple of guys here. Haupt is the one that everybody's heard of, I think.
Right.
When we talk about railroads during the Civil War. I'm going to talk about his role in a second, but he's not in charge of the U.S. military railroads. Everybody thinks he's the guy who's in charge. The guy that's I thought he was. You should see the look on your face right. The guy who's in charge, and I'm sure you've never heard of him, Daniel McCallum.
Nope, never heard of him.
Danny.
Oh, Danny Mac.
Big Danny Mac, exactly. Superintendent of the Erie Railroad, appointed director of military railroads, February 11th, 1862. Okay. He's the guy who is the liaison to the War Department. Okay. Haupt, and incidentally, initially, U.S. military, I'm going to use the abbreviation, the USMRR only operates the railroads in the Eastern Theater.
Okay.
They don't start operating railroads in the Western Theater until 1864.
Okay.
You pulled up the very, very furry Daniel McCallum.
Yeah.
he looks like...
he's Scottish as well.
He is Scottish, yep.
Let me see. I'll pull him up too so we can show the audience.
And
Daniel... God, my typing is off today. McCallum.
McCallum.
Yes.
OPGGXYZ.
I know how to spell it. That I know how to spell, Mikey. All right, let me get a good shot of him here. All right, size large.
Do the color one right there.
This one?
Yep.
Okay, interesting. So he's not a military man.
He's not a military guy.
He's given that rank and role based.
He's a railroad guy.
Yep.
And you see, this is the thing. You don't... Yeah.
There he is.
That's him.
Yeah,
you found them.
That's right. That's right.
That's not him.
That's a different Daniel McCallum.
That's a living Daniel McCallum.
Right.
He's a doctor.
And it's not David McCallum who's in Man from U.N.C.L.E. It's not him either.
All right, let me see. Where's the big one here? Here it is. Okay, let's go to this.
I don't like him as much as the first one, I'll be honest.
That's your guy.
There he is.
There's your guy.
There's Daniel McCallum.
Right.
That's one of my uncles.
Is it really?
It looks like it.
Oh,
okay. And so he's running the show. He's in the War Department. He's in Washington. He's the liaison between railroad companies and the U.S. military railroads. That's his role.
But Haupt is in charge of what? Why do I think?
Haupt is brought in the spring of 1862 to get one of the railroad lines in Virginia back in operation.
Okay.
Because remember, Haupt is a bridge guy, right? Right. And the main supply line for the Union Army at this point is it's called the Ukiah Creek line. Runs from Ukiah Creek, which flows into the Potomac. I think I'm pronouncing it right.
Is that Aquia?
Aquia,
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what. I'm just going by the spelling.
And right. And it runs from there down to Falmouth and Fredericksburg.
Yes.
And that's the famous, Potomac Creek ravine. And the railroad had been destroyed when the Confederates withdrew from Northern Virginia. So Haupt is brought in to get this railroad back up and running. Took him 10 days.
10 days?
10 days. To get this railroad...
figure it out or to get it done?
To get it done that trains were operating.
How many men did he have to fix
300 guys.
No kidding.
300 guys.
Wow.
And of course, the big thing that comes out of this is the famous beanpole and cornstalk bridge, as Lincoln describes it, which is, the bridge across Potomac Creek. Now, again, let's talk a little bit about Haupt. I want to talk a little bit about his background because there's a Gettysburg connection that I think a lot of folks aren't aware of. Okay. So he's a West Pointer. Mm-hmm. Only serves 2 years in the Army after he graduates from West Point before he resigns his commission and becomes a civil engineer. And in 1837, he surveys the railroad proposed railroad that isn't going to be built for a few decades west out of Gettysburg. So when we talk about the railroad cut,
Yep.
McPherson's Ridge,
Yep.
he's the guy that surveyed that line.
In the 1840s.
In the 1840s.
And
actually, 1837. He's only 19 years old, incidentally, at that point.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, 19-year-olds did a whole lot more back then.
Exactly. And he surveyed the railroad over South Mountain. You know, what becomes known as the Tapeworm Railroad. Now, it doesn't get built until much later, but he laid this thing out.
So, and we were also talking about him before the show, and you said that he was he was a professor at the college.
Professor at what was then called Pennsylvania College. Professor of mathematics and engineering, and that's when he writes the book, is when he's a professor here.
Oh, okay, good. All right, so that was written here in Gettysburg.
Yeah.
Wow.
And marries locally, too.
And marries locally. Marries a local girl. Yep.
And he builds what is known today as the Schultz House.
Exactly. That was his home.
Which is on the corner of Middle Street and Confederate Avenue. Everybody knows this house. It's this big, beautiful, I wish I could afford to live in that house type of house, right?
That's his home. He built that place.
So now, but he didn't build it the way...
No, it's been added on.
Okay, yeah.
He built the core of the house. I guess is the best way to describe it.
It was just a log cabin at the time.
Exactly.
He was only like 20-something.
The rich core.
The rich core.
The rich core of the house.
Exactly.
That rich core of the house.
Okay.
All right. So he's got an interesting tie to Gettysburg before the Battle of Gettysburg.
And then he goes back into railroading in 1847.
Yeah. And
he surveys the Horseshoe Curve for the Pennsylvania Railroad. He was the chief engineer of the Pennsylvania Railroad when they built the Horseshoe Curve. And so he gets called in to rebuild the Potomac Creek line, which he does. And then basically once that's done, he says, okay, I'm done here. I'm going back to Massachusetts because he was in the middle of a major project in Massachusetts building what's known as the Hoosac Tunnel. It's a huge railroad tunnel up there. But he told the War Department, if you need me, call me and I'll come back.
Yeah.
And he didn't get very far before they called him and said, hey, we need you. Because 2nd Manassas is going to be the least efficient period for the U.S. military railroads. And it's because Pope overrules this idea of letting railroad guys run the railroads.
Oh, right.
And he puts it under the control of the Quartermaster's Department.
Right.
And the telegraph that was sent to Haupt says, get back here, not a wheel is turning, because the railroad is just, a logjam.
And don't the Confederates take the trains?
They capture trains and supplies at Manassas Junction, And
it's like canned oysters.
Yeah, we talked about that last time when I was here talking about the commissary. They're capturing all these sutler supplies and things like that. And part of the problem is the quartermasters aren't unloading the trains. Train will get to its destination, then it'll just sit in a siding for 2 days and nobody unloads it.
Typical.
Right? So Haupt comes roaring in and he's described by one of his biographers that his attitude was, I told you so, you didn't listen to me, get out of the way and let me do my job. so and he gets to work and he kind of...
That is a satisfying position to be in.
Right, and he kind of clears everything out and gets the railroads running. Has a big run-in with Samuel Sturgis. This is where the famous quote, I don't give a pinch of how dung for John Pope comes from.
Right.
That was actually Sturgis arguing with Haupt. Because Haupt has been given control of the railroads by Stanton, direct from Stanton. And Sturgis is trying to overrule him.
Okay.
And Sturgis thinks he's on Pope's staff, and there's this whole thing.
Did you say Samuel Sturgis?
Yeah.
So that's the same one from the little big, the 7th Cavalry.
Right. Same guy. Same guy. Yeah.
We have a phone call here. Somebody's got a question for you. The great former head of CBS, Les Moonves is on the air. Les.
Yes.
It's, of course, the first phone call of the year by our friend Grant from Australia. Hello, Grant. Happy New Year to you, sir. Is it 2026 in Australia? How does that work? I know you guys are you like a year ahead of us?
Hello, Matt. Happy New Year.
Hello. Okay, Grant. Well, it was good talking to you, buddy. Are you awake?
I have a question about trains.
Okay, go ahead. Ask it.
Oh, I can ask. I've got permission. Thank you.
If you could do it quickly.
Yes. Herman Haupt, as you're talking about, he's the genius of the trains and all that in the war, kind of as it's described. But he's mostly focused in the east. Did the west, Sherman and all that, did they have a counterpart over there that we just don't hear about that was equally as effective?
Do you need that translated?
No, I got it.
Okay.
I got it.
Yeah.
I can speak Australian. Initially, it's John Anderson, who was the superintendent of a railroad in the West, the Louisville and Nashville. And Anderson's not particularly effective. He actually gets replaced in 1864 by McCallum. So that's when the U.S. military railroads take over operation of the railroads in the Western Theater. But he was kind of the Western equivalent, if you will, of Herman Haupt.
Was there a line that was continuous from, say, New York to Chicago, or did you have to?
The Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania was that was the only one.
New York to Philly, Philly to Harrisburg, Harrisburg to Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh to Chicago.
Without having to switch.
Without having to switch trains.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And we're seeing during the war, more northern railroads are starting to interconnect. So they're building connections.
So they're seeing
these railroads.
They're seeing the wisdom, of connecting your railroads.
Yep, exactly.
And having the same gauge.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, Grant, anything else you have a question to ask, or do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, in fact, I do, sir.
Okay.
I don't know if we were going to talk about Anderson's Raiders on this show, but I was just wondering, I've always wondered, if they had been successful and not captured and all that, how much damage could they have really caused? Could they have really done a lot of damage to the South?
Not really. It was too small scale an operation. You're talking 22 guys. And really what their goal was to destroy one of those longer railroads in the South, which is the Western Atlantic, which ran from Atlanta to Chattanooga. And it was the supply line from, I forget which Confederate army is up there at that point. But again, I don't know Western theater as well as I should. But, that was the goal. And first of all, 22 guys can't do that much damage.
Right.
They're trying to burn bridges. It's raining. The bridges won't catch on fire. So to really do the kind of damage they envisioned, you would have needed hundreds of guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just, eventually it just became, let's try to get back to friendly territory. And of course, the locomotive, the general, runs out of fuel, runs out of wood.
Oh, okay.
And they had to abandon the locomotive. And then that's when they're captured.
I know, like of course, in the movies, it's always exciting to see a railroad sabotage or something like that. How common was that in the Civil War?
It's not uncommon. I mean, it happens. As a matter of fact, the U.S. military railroad, and again, this is part of Haupt's time there, eventually splits into 3 sub-departments.
Okay.
So you have the department that's actually running the trains. And that's what they refer to as the operations department. Then there's the construction corps, which again goes from 300 guys in 1862 to 10,000 men by the time the war ends. And they're the ones who are building railroads, but they're also destroying railroads.
Right.
So if the Union Army's abandoning an area, like during the Gettysburg campaign, when they have to come north, they tear up the Potomac Creek line again. And one of the things that Haupt has developed is ways to blow up bridges, with black powder. So they blow that bridge over the Potomac Gorge. There's actually, I think, 4 or 5 different bridges built across that ravine during the course of the Civil War. Okay. And then the final organization within there is the one that's actually maintaining the equipment.
And the purpose, so you're saying the Union Army would blow the bridge?
Yeah. To keep the Confederates from utilizing it.
Yeah, sure. So
if the Union Army's moving out of that area.
Closing the back door, basically.
Right.
Okay. Actually destroying the back door.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. And then they can always rebuild it when they need to use it again.
Which they do.
Yeah.
Which they do.
Because they've got the money and the manpower.
The money and the manpower. Yeah. And Haupt starts to really think in terms of, let's streamline this process. I mean, it only took him a few days to build that bean pole and cornstalk bridge.
Right.
But in his view, it took too long. It took like a week to get that bridge up and running.
Really?
Yeah. So he starts to, and this is where, again, this book comes in, he starts to have bridge sections prefabricated and stockpiled in Alexandria.
See, brilliant.
So if you need to repair a bridge or you need to rebuild a bridge, all right.
We got the parts.
We got the parts. We'll just take them to the site and just assemble them on site.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Brilliant.
It's great.
So, for example, during the Antietam campaign, Confederates tear up the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad again. And one of the things the Confederates did is they blew the bridge over the Monocacy River just south of Frederick. It was back in operation in less than 5 days. Huh. So, that's how quickly, these guys can get. Yeah. And what they're doing, and this kind of goes back to what Mike asked me earlier, is they're working with the Baltimore and Ohio. So you've got the U.S. military railroad crews and Baltimore and Ohio crews working side by side to keep these railroads functioning.
The classic public-private partnership that we see today here at our visitor center.
Here at our visitors.
Mikey?
And kind of piggybacking off that, and I know we've discussed it a little bit, but Mike Lentz came in with a super chat question.
Thank you, Mike.
How did the existence of railroad junctions and railroad centers influence Union strategic planning during the war?
That's a good question.
They become targets. So there's a reason Sherman's heading for Atlanta, because it's a railroad hub, right? There's a reason Grant and Meade are heading for Petersburg. It's a railroad hub, right? So that's the strategic planning is chop off the railroads that are supplying the Confederate armies, right? So I think that's what you're looking at.
Grant, anything else?
Just one last question. This podcast is definitely not running out of steam. Matt is conducting a fine podcast on his platform. It's right on track. I'm not going to derail anything here. But
you're getting all your puns in.
That's right.
I'm going to call you Rapunzel.
That's all I could think of. I was trying to get in as many as I could. But I'll say one last question, then I'll let you whistle and get to the next stop.
Right.
But the Northern forces, they were getting all this rail track and trains on such a scale that most of those guys had never handled before the war. Was there any major bottlenecks or anything during the war? There must have been some times or some events where it was just still too much for them.
Oh yeah, There's times, and this is where, and this actually is perfectly timed because what comes out of all the problems they had at Second Manassas is Haupt addressing just that issue. The bottlenecks. How do you move, large quantities of rail traffic over a railroad that was not designed to do that?
Yeah.
And he kind of goes from being the bridge builder and the construction guy to now he becomes a guy who's involved in operating the trains as well.
Okay.
And he comes up with what are referred to as Haupt's rules. And this becomes, kind of the hallmark of everything that goes right for Union railroads as the war goes on. Rule number 1, military officers shall not interfere with the running of trains.
Perfect.
Okay. Let the railroad guys do their job.
Right.
Rule number 2, supplies are only sent forward as needed. So don't send unnecessary trains forward to clog up the lines. Move the trains forward as you need the supplies. Okay. Number 3, trains reaching the front unloaded immediately by anyone available. Officers refusing to cooperate will be dismissed.
Okay. So if you're there when the train arrives, you're working.
Get to work.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly.
Okay. I'll make sure I'm never at the train station.
Right. Exactly. Right. If there is no telegraph, trains will run on a rigid schedule. All trains will depart on time, whether they are loaded or not.
Okay.
And number 5, on lines with no passing sidings, trains will operate in convoys of 5 to 6 trains. Each convoy returns to base before the next convoy departs.
Oh.
This is what happens during the Gettysburg campaign.
Okay.
And let me go back to Antietam for just one moment. Because the B&O gets torn up, the railroad line that supplies McClellan at Antietam is 3 separate northern railroads working together.
Okay.
Baltimore and Ohio from Washington to Baltimore, the Northern Central from Baltimore to Harrisburg, the Cumberland Valley from Harrisburg to Hagerstown. That's the supply line.
Okay.
On the morning of September 18th, day after the battle, a trainload of ammunition is dispatched from Washington. Leaves Washington at 8 a.m. It's in Hagerstown at 12:45 p.m.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty quick.
That's really quick.
Yeah. And it's at a max speed of...
They said that at times it was hitting 60 miles per hour on the Cumberland Valley from Harrisburg.
Was it downhill most of the way?
It must have been. Well, south. So you're...
That's how it works.
That's why it was easier for them to win the war. They were going south.
Exactly, right.
It was easy.
But that is just phenomenal. I mean, I actually got on Google Maps this afternoon to see how long it would take to drive that.
Yeah.
And it actually takes 45 minutes less to drive it today.
Really?
On the modern line than it took that train to get from D.C. to Hagerstown using the same route.
How the hell did they do that?
I have no idea.
Trains, Matt.
But
maybe it was one of those logs that Emmett Brown uses.
That's
Yes.
Right. But you know what you do? You clear all other traffic. You clear the railroad, and just that train takes priority. And that's the kind of thing that they start to do. So during the Gettysburg campaign, and you've got a single track line from Baltimore to Westminster, and they're running 15 trains a day because they're running 3 convoys of 5 trains, daily. And they're bringing 1,500 tons of supplies to Westminster every day of the Battle of Gettysburg, which is just incredible on a single track railroad.
Right.
But it's because of Haupt's rules. And it goes back to what Graham was asking. Before the war, that railroad saw 3 trains a day.
Right.
Total.
Right.
Not just round trip. Like one up to back and one left Baltimore, went to Westminster, and they spent the night and came back. I mean, that's literally what they were doing.
Now, how about telegraph lines along the railroads? Grant, is there anything else before I move on and hang up on you?
You have to, I know you've got a strict timetable and you need to keep on schedule, so I'll go.
Okay, thank you. Grant, it's great to hear your voice. Bye-bye now. I don't know if it's morning over there and he just woke up or he's been drinking or both. Could be both. Okay, so telegraphs. Because you mentioned that the act was what? The railroad and telegraph line?
Right. So they could take over a telegraph line if necessary.
Oh, okay. So it's just giving them authority. So it had nothing to do with running telegraph lines along railroads or anything?
You typically had telegraph lines that did follow the railroads.
Just because it's easier?
Because it's easier, and the railroads are using telegraphs. And this is actually one of the things that McCallum came up with before the war started, of using the telegraph to control train movements.
Yeah.
So if you've got, this is the old math question that everybody had when they were in high school. If a train leaves Pittsburgh going 45 miles per hour and a train, heading east, and a train leaves Philadelphia at 50 miles per hour heading west, where will they meet, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, no clue, right? But, you if it's a single track line with sidings,
right,
you've got to be able to control the trains going from one station to another so they don't end up running into each other, right?
Right.
So they would use the telegraph to do that. So, but that's being used by civilian railroads before the war, and the military just adopts that.
Yeah. Was that used in the South too with the telegraphs?
Not so much.
Yeah. Again,
because the technology's not there.
Okay.
And the
telegraph technology?
Yeah, it's there, but it's not being utilized as much. Especially in railroading.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Yeah. What's that? There's a super chat there, Mike. Read it, please.
Oh, it said. It's from Matt Gillespie.
What does it say?
Can you please give your guest a Dan Butterfield?
That's very possible, and we'll do it right now, Matt. Thank you.
Dan Butterfield.
That's what we used to do on the show when somebody made a good point or just deserved to be hailed.
Okay,
and
compliment accepted.
Yeah, there you go. You got a Dan Butterfield.
And I assume if you make it just a god-awful point, you get a Dan Sickles. Is that how that works?
Yeah, but we don't have C. Thomas Howell singing Dan Sickles. Sickles.
Or you just don't get invited.
Or you just don't get invited back.
One of the two things.
Yeah,
one of the two.
We suddenly lose your email address.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
All right, so what else?
Okay, so let's just kind of wrap this up. Yeah. We've been plodding along here for an hour and a half. Yeah. Exactly. Northern railroads get better as the war goes on. Southern railroads collapse.
Unless the North occupies the area.
Unless the North occupies the railroad and then rebuilds a railroad that the South tore up, right? Part of the problem in the South is you don't have anything that even remotely resembles the U.S. military railroads. So you don't have that, central body running the trains.
Okay.
Right? There's attempts to give the Confederate government control, and every attempt until one finally in February of 1865 doesn't make it through the Congressional Congress because that's too much government overreach into private business and such. There was one officer in the Confederate Army was given control of railroads for about a 4 or 5 month period in 1863. His name is William Wadley, and he's the closest they're going to come to having a professional railroader in the quartermaster's department coordinating railroads.
Okay.
And the problem is his commission is denied by the Confederate Congress in May of 1863 after several months of really making improvements to the railroads. The reason his commission was denied, he was born in New Hampshire.
Oh, God.
He lived in Georgia from the age of 16. But because he's a northerner by birth.
See, you guys get all butthurt when we make fun of the South, but you could have won if you had just gotten your heads out of your asses. All right, that was written by Mikey B over there, and I just read it out loud.
I did not.
All right. Okay, so continue.
We'll wrap up just a couple other things here. During the 4 years of the war, there was not a single yard of rail manufactured in the South.
So then there's not much they could have done unless they got it from what, England? Where are they going to get it from?
England or tearing up an existing railroad to repair or rebuild another railroad.
Oh, that's no position to be in.
It's no position to be
in.
And again, part of the problem is, of course, they're putting their resources into weapons. But one area that the South really put a lot of resources into that did not pay off, they would have been a lot better off, rolling rail, okay, is ironclads.
Yeah.
They're building, iron plating,
right,
for ironclad warships. And really, if you really think about it, other than, the day before the Monitor shows up at Hampton Roads, Confederate ironclads really aren't very effective.
Yeah. So, but they must have valued those more than they saw the value in that.
I think they thought they could break the blockade with.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was. But they would have been a lot better off.
Swing and a miss.
Yep, a swing and a miss. Absolutely. Absolutely. So rail wears out in 3 years. So by 1863, the Southern railroads are starting to break down. Trains have to run slower because the rail is wearing out. The wheels are wearing out. The locomotives are breaking down because they can't get spare parts because all the spare parts are made in the North. There was a foundry in Savannah that made railroad wheels. In 1861, they're making 50 a day. By 1863, they're down to a dozen a day. And the reason is the wheels on the trains were wearing out so quickly that they couldn't bring the raw materials to the foundry to cast new wheels.
Because they had no wheels on the trains that are working.
Exactly.
Oh, God. What a mess.
Yeah, exactly.
Holy crap.
And so there's this steady decline. And of course, the decline is occurring as railroads become more critical because we talked about this last time when I was here talking about the commissary department. Lee's getting his supplies in 1862 from Virginia. By 1863, they're coming from North Carolina. By 1864, his food is coming from North Georgia and South Carolina. Well, it's being transported by railroad, but the railroads can't keep up. They can't, the volume of supplies isn't there.
So is that why they have to send Lee sends Longstreet to go foraging for supplies? Yeah, because the railroads can't get up to them.
Railroads can't get to him. They can't bring enough supplies to him to keep his army. And he's cutting rations to the point where they're down to 500. Yeah, they're down to 500 tons a day. Okay, unlike the Union Army, which is consuming 1,500 tons a day.
Oh my God!
But that's part of the equation. So again, you have this slow but steady decline of railroads in the Confederacy. And it finally gets to the point where things get so bad, and this is, pretty much the last thing I'll mention here before we take whatever other questions might be out there.
Take a quick break and then we'll come out.
There was a railroad that ran from Danville, Virginia down to Greensboro, North Carolina. And it's actually built during the war by cannibalizing rail from other railroads. 48 miles. The rail was in such bad shape by 1865, they tried to move a division of troops on that railroad to reinforce Lee at Petersburg. Mm-hmm. The 1st Brigade was sent out by train. Took them 6 days to cover 48 miles.
Oh my God.
Because the trains keep derailing.
Were they pushing the trains?
Oh, they would have been better off pushing the trains, actually. They probably would have made more headway.
So they were derailing. Why?
Because the rails are worn out.
Okay, so they're derailing and
the trains themselves are breaking down.
Are these brigades? Are the soldiers? Are they getting hurt from this? Like, are they?
They're minor. It's minor. Like they just ran off the tracks and just nothing serious. But then they got to get them back on. Yeah.
And then they derail again.
Yeah.
All in the same trip.
All in the same trip. So the 2nd and 3rd Brigade walked to Virginia and got there faster than the guys who were on the trains.
But imagine, God, I all joking aside, right? Like, you gotta feel bad for the foot soldier who's like.
Well, he's the victim of this.
He is, because
he's the guy who's suffering from the lack of foresight and the lack of planning.
Yeah, the idiot leaders. And again, that's who I'm always criticizing. It's the people that don't get to suffer.
Well, and then compare that with the pictures we have of City Point,
right,
in 1864.
Yeah,
and of course, then the Union Army, the U.S. Military Railroad, builds a railroad from City Point to literally to the front lines of Petersburg.
Yeah,
and do you think those guys ever had a shortage of supplies? You just see mountains of supplies.
Right.
Sitting there at City Point.
How do you expect to win against an army that can do that?
You can't.
Right?
You can't.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Okay. No, that's good. I like it. So we'll take a break right now. We'll come back after these next few words and we'll have questions from the audience. Now, if you want to call in, we can still take your calls at 717-420-1978. And if you don't want to call in, that's your prerogative. You will still do the super chats, $10 or more. And of course, we have a whole bunch of questions here. This got a lot of questions.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Yeah. So people really.
This was another one I went into thinking there's going to be like 6 people or like
No,
what they call in the railroad community foamers. We're like big rail guys.
Yeah, no, I think there are some foamers here, but yeah, and that makes me. I'm going to look up a video to play everybody because that reminds me of something. But anyway, we'll be right back after these words from our wonderful, wonderful sponsors. Okay, 2 minutes plus a couple
of hours.
What do you think?
Good. Yeah.
Sucks.
Join the fun and learn a ton. Become a member of the AG community at patreon.com/addressing Gettysburg.
Hey, buddy. What's got you so down?
Hey, Kohr. I'm looking for a gift, but I just don't know what to get my Gettys nerd friends and family.
It sounds like we need to have a talk. Come on. You love this place, don't you?
You bet I do. It's my favorite place in the world.
Well, you see, at Addressing Gettysburg, it's our mission to keep these stories alive.
How do we do that?
I'm glad you asked, sport. You see, Gettysburg is the gateway to the most brutal and crucial time in American history, so we interview experts, and our listeners learn with us.
That sounds amazing.
It is! Mike, are you f***ing serious?
What? It's for the commercial. What benefits do patrons get?
You mean besides up to 4 premium episodes per month and Matt being the bee's knees as host? How about early access to special episodes, behind-the-scenes insights, and discounts for ticketed events?
Whoa! None of the other history channels I follow do that for their listeners.
That's because Addressing Gettysburg doesn't take its listeners for granted and really cares about us learning American history.
You know, I should gift my Gettys nerd friends and family an Addressing Gettysburg Patreon membership.
You see, the answer was right under your nose the entire time.
Make Addressing Gettysburg's Patreon a gift for the Gettys nerd in your family this holiday season. Addressing Gettysburg wants you to learn about the Civil War with us, and we need your support. We'll run this ad until it gets annoying, and then we'll run it until you become a patron at patreon.com/addressinggettysburg or by scanning the QR code on your screen. Happy holidays.
At Digital History Pioneers Foundation, we are about grassroots history on digital platforms. That means we are about podcasters, documentarians, YouTubers, and even TikTokers. All of these creators are out there trying to share their love of history with the public. They don't need ideas, they need funding, both from viewers and corporate donors. DH Pioneers' initial funding focus is on the Civil War era, with a special emphasis on the Addressing Gettysburg podcast. So be a vital part of the unique content Addressing Gettysburg has in store by donating at dhpioneers.com and help bring your love of history to the people. Digital History Pioneers is an IRS Section 501c3 approved charitable corporation that makes any donation tax deductible to the fullest extent of the law.
You know, Steve, one of the greatest things ever to come out of not only Gettysburg, but I would say the entire state of Pennsylvania, and I'm including Jim Thorpe in that, is
Jim
this.
Thorpe, wow.
Yes, Little Ground Top. Little Ground Top is, and Jimmy Stewart, I include him in that as well, okay? And he was a general. And a movie star. Little Ground Top is our delicious coffee. Take a sniff. Smell that, okay?
Little Ground Top?
Yes.
Wow, that was creative. Who thought about that?
That was us.
Oh, that smells good.
Look at this. Oh, that smells good.
The tasting notes are cacao, wildflowers, and toasted sugar. I smell that toasted sugar.
You smell that toasted sugar, don't you? Do you like coffee?
I do like coffee.
You're a big coffee guy.
I do. I am a coffee guy.
Little Ground Top is available online if you go to addressinggettysburg.com/cafe. You can even do a monthly or weekly or bi-weekly subscription to Little Ground Top. You just pay it and you spray it. No, pay it and forget it. Set it and forget it. That's what I'm talking about. They'll just send it to you. It'll pop in the mail. You'll be like, oh, I got another bag of Little Ground Top. And good, because I'm going through it so fast because it is so delicious. You can also get it at Bantam Roasters. You know where that is, right? Across from the Dobbin House.
I do.
And they have it in there, but I got to tell you something. They sell out within 3 days typically. So much so, they used to put 12 bags out. That's 12 pounds. Now they put 18 bags out.
That's 18 pounds. Yes.
That's right. And still, they are moving fast. So the best thing for you to do is go to addressinggettysburg.com/cafe and order it online so that you never waste a trip. You know, some people say, oh, I'll get my bag when I go to Gettysburg. And they go in before they leave on Sunday, and it's all
18
gone.
18 pounds are gone?
All gone. They put them out Friday night or Saturday morning, okay? And they're gone typically definitely by Monday. All right, and on a slow week, they're done by Tuesday, Wednesday.
You should start signing these bags.
You know what? I'm going to do that right now.
Okay.
Where's the Sharpie? Do I have a Sharpie in here?
Yes, you do.
I do. Please hand me the Sharpie. I'm going to sign it. Because you know what? I'm giving this to you.
You even went Ron Popeil and set it and forget it?
That's right. Thanks for coming on, Matt.
I might resubscribe as a Patreon now.
All right, maybe you should, because I've been missing you. All right, and you know what, Steve? Because you come on the show and we don't pay, this is your gift, okay? There you go.
I wanted 18 pounds of coffee. I just get 1 pound?
Well, you can go buy the other 17 when you go over to Bantam Roasters, if they even have them on the shelf.
How are you still selling merch?
Yes.
In my suitcase, I've got the Reynolds shirt.
Do you?
That was the best design, by the way.
That was a good one, yeah. That's good. Thank you for buying that.
Yes.
Anyway, 82 Steinware Avenue right here in Gettysburg, or addressinggettysburg.com/cafe. Little Ground Top, set it and forget it.
Super chats of $10 or more rise above the din in the comments section. Now that that's out of the way, let's ask a Gettysburg guide. Here's Matt and the gang.
Oh, thank you, Courtney. That was beautifully done. And you do it the same every week.
Golden pipes.
Yeah, the golden-throated Courtney Micker. All right, now, we dumped out of the commercial break because it was just too long, and we just needed enough time to make water, and and we have. So before we get into things, you had mentioned something about foamers. I think that was the term. Is that like train enthusiasts?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think professional railroaders call them is foamers.
Yeah, okay. I have a video here that I saw this years ago, this video, and it made me laugh. But also I have to say, there's something, what's the word? Charming, maybe not charming. There's something that makes you feel good about someone who gets joy over something so simple that we all take advantage or take for granted, right? And we don't give it a second thought. And some other people are practically, if you'll forgive my language, orgasmic over it.
This is true.
And so let's take a look at this video here. Court, go ahead.
All right. Look at that. A 1953 E8. Woo-hoo! Oh, yeah. Listen to that bell. Yeah, listen to that bell. Oh, take a look at that. Oh, my God. Woo! Listen to that horn. Oh, my God. Oh, she's beautiful. She is beautiful. Yeah. All right. Oh my! Oh!
That is the definition of former.
Okay.
Oh no! It's a PL2 too! Oh, the SNC 52! Oh my God! Oh, we're gonna watch this. Oh, this is special. This is special. Oh, that horn gives me the chills. Oh, and the chills have absolutely nothing to do with how cold it is here. But that doesn't stop a foamer. Oh, especially when it comes to heritage equipment. Oh, this is fantastic. Oh my goodness. Look at that.
All right, that's enough.
Blue and gray. Oh, coupled to the. Oh.
Well, it was blue and gray, so it was appropriate. It ties in nicely.
Civil War.
There you go.
I was going to say that's what I used to do when I would get to Gettysburg. And I'd get out of the car. It's the first day's battlefield. Oh, it's Buford.
Yeah. Oh, it's Buford statue. Oh my God.
It's not that much different. It
no.
Really isn't.
And that's the thing is we're all foamers about something, right?
Yes.
All right, I'll start our first question here with Chris Mowell. He says, did General Isaac Trimble's railroad/engineer background add any value to General Lee and the Confederate Army during the Gettysburg campaign? If yes, in what way? Also, is it true that he was the best dressed man in the Confederate Army?
I don't know about his choice of attire. Yeah. Okay,
no, I think that's just for gods and generals.
Yeah, that probably is. Yeah. Okay. If the only thing I can think of is first of all, the Confederates aren't using the railroads at all once they get north of the Potomac because they don't have the equipment. Right. Mm-hmm. It's not like the U.S. military railroad where they can build a railroad as the Army's on the move. He's somewhat familiar with the area because of his railroad experience with some of the railroad lines up here. Mostly the northern central and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But other than that, I would say no.
There was, before I wanted to ask you when you were talking about, Haupt repairing railroad bridges in like a day or a couple days.
I forgot to mention this, but Haupt is gone by September of '63. He goes back to private railroading.
Oh, really?
So he doesn't make it through the entire war.
You think they would have held on to him tooth and nail?
He ran into some problems politically with the governor of Massachusetts. So he had to make a decision of whether to stay with the Army or go back to Massachusetts and work on the tunnel.
Oh.
So he chooses to go back to the tunnel.
Okay. But when we're talking about repairing these bridges, in my mind, it immediately goes to completely destroyed from one bank to the next, right? But we're not necessarily talking.
Necessarily.
It could be just a chunk of it blown out in the middle.
It's a multi-span bridge. Like, for example, when the Confederates blew up the bridge over the Potomac during the Antietam campaign, they blew up 2 spans of the bridge.
Okay.
So you've got to replace those 2 sections.
Right. So you have, how many spans was it? 3?
I think
4?
3 or 4,
yeah. So you got 1 or 2 already there.
Right.
And you just continue.
Bring in the components and just reassemble it.
Josh Vinay says, what challenges? He's got a lot. This is the first guy here who's vying for 6 questions, title of 6 questions. Except he has 6 too. What challenges did armies face when trying to repair or destroy railroads? So repair, we've kind of talked about that, but destroy, how about destroy?
Destroy, if you do it well enough, you got to make sure the other guys can't reuse it.
Yeah.
So just
Sherman neckties.
Yeah. Exactly. So you can tear up a rail, but if you just tear it off and just leave it laying there, they can put it back on and spike it down, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's that of making sure that the damage is permanent enough Because you're really getting to this point where, especially with, the U.S. military railroad construction guys, they have so much practice rebuilding a railroad, they can do it very quickly. Mm-hmm. So, there's accounts in the Western Theater that as the Confederates are pulling back towards Atlanta, they're tearing up the railroad. And the next day, they're hearing steam whistles because trains are
they're just building it.
They're just rebuilding it that quickly.
Yeah.
So...
Again, how do you expect to win against that?
Right.
Yeah, God almighty. How did the South, we kind of touched on this, but if you want to go into it a little more, you can. How did the South's lack of standardized track gauges impact their war effort?
Well, again, it's a problem for both sides.
Yeah.
So it's not just the South. It does create problems at times. Probably the most notable as we get to the end of the war, when they tried to get railroad equipment out of harm's way. The railroads in South Carolina were 5-foot gauge. Railroads in North Carolina were standard gauge, 4 foot 8.5. Mm-hmm. They wanted the railroads in North Carolina to change their gauge to bring this equipment up to Virginia to get it away from Sherman's army. Zebulon Vance, governor of North Carolina, refused to change the gauge of North Carolina railroads.
Of course.
So those railroads, that equipment got stuck in South Carolina, and Sherman destroyed it.
He seemed to be like a real pain in the ass.
He was another guy who was like, my state first, and everybody else.
Go to hell.
Yeah, exactly.
Zebulon. What a name. Let's see. Could the Confederacy have done more to centralize and coordinate their railroads? Yes, we've established.
Yeah. You have to have the infrastructure in place to maintain railroads, and that's what they didn't do.
This is a good one. How did the use of railroads during the Civil War set the stage for later U.S. expansion and industrialization?
One is the idea of railroads interchanging. Yeah. So that's one of the biggest things that comes out of the Civil War is more cooperation between different railroad lines. And actually, the bill to create the Transcontinental Railroad is passed and signed into law by Lincoln.
Right.
During the war.
Yeah, I forgot that. Yep. And what'd you say before the show? There were 300 companies that
300 individual railroad companies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so for the government to actually, I think somebody asked a question about the government, so I don't want to steal their thunder here. Doug Davenport says, in May of June of 63, there seems to be a lot of concern about Southern forces attacking or disrupting rail service within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Several railroads in South Central Pennsylvania moved a lot of personnel and materiel, including the PRR, Huntington and Broad Top, Cumberland Valley, and Northern Central. What was the calculus? Oh boy. Here we go. Used for preventing rail-related issues leading up to and during the invasion of Pennsylvania. Which plans worked and which ones didn't work as well? Were there any close calls? Okay, when you throw in the word calculus, I know what you're saying, but I thought we were going to have to get into math. And so I'm glad we don't. So go ahead.
What worked is getting equipment out of harm's way. And specifically getting it to the other side of the Susquehanna River.
Yes.
Okay.
Just like how the townsfolk in Gettysburg got all their valuables up to
the railroad
Harrisburg.
companies are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
They're moving stuff, across the river, trying to get it as far away from the Confederates as possible. I don't think they're too concerned about damage being done to the railroad because they know that it can be repaired fairly quickly. Mm-hmm. And this is what we see. The Cumberland Valley suffers a lot of damage. As Lee's army is moving up through Shippensburg and Chambersburg and, Mechanicsburg and towards Harrisburg. The line between Gettysburg and Hanover Junction gets torn up at several points by Early's division.
Right.
The Northern Central gets torn up at Hanover Junction and up towards York. These railroads are all up and running again by July the 8th and July the 9th. Mm. And that's because the U.S. Military Railroad then comes in, works with the railroad companies, and repairs them.
How when like Early burns the railroad bridge here and cuts telegraph wires and everything, how long before they're back up?
July 9th.
Okay, so for a while they're without telegraph here and railroad
by July
bridge.
the 9th, the rail service has been restored.
Okay.
I'm not sure about the telegraph, but the rail service is definitely restored by the 9th.
And really that delay is only once military security is taken. So really you're only looking from July 4th until the 9th is the time when they're actually working.
Right.
Yeah, and the U.S. Military Railroad will operate that railroad until August the 1st.
Oh.
So when they're moving train loads of wounded out of here,
Yeah.
it's the U.S. military railroad that's actually taken over Operation That Railroad.
Okay.
So again, that's part of the authority of the Railroad Act we talked
Yeah, and that's where they have the guys across from, what's it called? Camp Letterman. They're just loading them up right there, right across the road.
Exactly.
Was there a station there, or was it just
They
like...
just had a platform there.
Yeah, okay.
Just the amount of, again, the wounded, like you said, but the amount of supplies they're bringing into this town for the tens of thousands of wounded soldiers is unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I say, how do you think you could win a war against a people that can do that? But then also, how did it take them so long to win the war against people who couldn't? How did it take the North so long? You know, like, it's not all that simple. I'm oversimplifying.
No,
but
but it's true. It's just it's inevitable.
Yeah.
You know, that the North is going to win this thing.
Yeah, it really does.
I mean, you'd have to really be inept in the North not to utilize all these advantages.
So talking about the wood burning locomotives, I mean, I'm assuming it's not the fuel as much as it is how big a head of steam you can get, right?
You need to replenish the water supply more often than the wood.
Right. That's going to go faster.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Susan asks, how many cars were in a typical freight train?
Typical freight train is 10 cars.
Okay. So 10 cars plus the engine, so 11 altogether.
Yep.
And
you might have a few that are a bit longer on some of the more heavy duty railroads.
And so how about like, because she asked about, so she obviously knows what she's talking about here because her questions are, you already answered her question. And she said, after how many miles would a locomotive need to stop for water? How frequently would it stop for fuel?
It depends on the type of locomotive. So, you know, even though we talk about, you know, the American standard, the 440 locomotive, they come in all different sizes. You know, as far as the size of the boiler and how much, the capacity of wood and water you can carry in what they call the tender, which is the car that attaches to the back of the locomotive. So it would vary. And I'll be honest, I don't know how often, like, for example, the Northern Central, how often they had water stops, and that kind of thing. But it's probably at least maybe 40, 50 miles, before you'd have to replenish the water supply.
I mean, they had to have figured that out, and they probably had
all that out.
Water along the way.
They've got water tanks along the way.
Yeah.
That's where the term tank town comes from out west. The town developed around the water tank.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
She asked this here, where can original pre-1870 locomotives and or rolling stock be seen today? The B&O Museum in Baltimore has a wonderful collection, as does the Railroad Museum in Strasburg, PA. Hopefully there are other ones out there.
Well, she named the big two.
Yeah.
Okay. The B&O Railroad Museum has a huge collection of pre-Civil War locomotives. As a matter of fact, one of the locomotives they have on display, the William Mason, actually was one of the locomotives that was used. I think it's the one that's used to take Lincoln to Washington from Baltimore.
Okay.
Well, in 1861, that's the locomotive that pulled his train. And that's in the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad Museum.
Oh, that's cool.
And then, of course, you have, she mentioned the Railroad Museum of Pennsylvania. The General is on display in Atlanta. The Texas, which was the other locomotive involved in the locomotive chase, is also at Kennesaw Mountain. You've got some, I believe there's some in the Smithsonian. The California Railroad Museum in Sacramento has a fantastic collection of equipment. So yeah, there's a number of places, scattered around the country.
Mitchell Randall says, which generals were most effective at railroad warfare?
The ones that kept their hands off the railroads.
Great answer.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that's really what it comes down to.
That's a good answer.
The guys who understood, let the railroad guys run the railroads and don't screw around with them. And those are the guys who did it well.
You're a model train enthusiast, you said.
I am.
Lionels, or what do you?
HO scale, which is smaller than Lionel.
Why are Lionels like amateurish, or? There's
oh boy.
I'm getting you to piss off everybody.
You are,
today.
exactly. Okay. Lionel is what we would call toy trains.
Oh.
So they also sometimes refer to it as semi-scale. So in other words, it's not Some of them are right on the money as far as scale, which is proportion. Some of them, they change things to make them easier to get around sharper curves.
They're Farby trains.
They're Farby trains. Yeah.
Right? And then the scale trains are built to an exact scale replica.
Right.
So that sort of thing.
Well, I had Lionels as a kid.
Okay. You ever see any railroads with that third rail in the middle?
No, and that always bugged me. That always bugged me that they didn't have the ties and there was the third rail.
Yeah, exactly.
And ruined it for me.
Yep.
But I loved how big they were.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what I liked. Roy Mead said, in Kent Masterson Brown's book about General Meade, it sounded like Meade and Haupt didn't have a great relationship. Do we know why that was, and do you think they had any kind of effect on the battle?
I don't think it has an effect on the battle. Haupt is going to claim when he writes his memoirs that he knew Meade wasn't going to pursue aggressively. But Haupt spends most of his time, and I guess it's part of the reason why they send him back to Massachusetts without too much argument, okay, at the end of 1863. He really doesn't get along with very many generals. Okay. He second guesses these guys a lot.
It's too smart. I mean, look at the book he wrote.
He's a smart guy.
By the way, did you read that book?
No.
That's why I think it's funny that you have it.
I read that he wrote this book when he was in Gettysburg.
Right.
I ordered it. I actually found this online. I was like, okay, let's order. Opened it up and went, oh my God.
Yeah, that's one forgotten book that I'll be forgetting. Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to get that one. Morgan Draper says, how frequently were railroads used to transport troops? And her second question is, did some railroads become exclusively working to aid the war effort, such as we saw in World War II, et cetera?
At times.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, troops, when you see troops being moved by train, we don't see troops being moved by train during an active campaign often. I mean, it does happen. We talked about Longstreet moving from the Eastern Theater to the Western Theater. The 11th and 12th Corps being shifted to the Western Theater. We talked about Manassas and that kind of thing. But typically where you see troop movements is, when the 1st Minnesota is organized in Minnesota and you need to get them to Washington.
Right.
They're going to be traveling by rail.
Yeah.
Right. So that's when we see large scale troop movements. As far as railroads being exclusively used for military purposes, yeah, it does happen at times, but it's usually temporary, at least in the North.
Now, in your example of the 1st Minnesota, right? Start of the war, they'd be around 1,000 men.
Yeah.
Is that one? I mean, it can't be one train.
It probably would be. Maybe two.
Passenger?
Maybe two. Passenger train.
Passenger train.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm trying to think, a passenger coach in that time period would probably hold about 50 people.
So you'd have to do the math, Mikey.
You'd probably have 2 trains because you'd probably have about 10 cars.
Yeah. Okay.
In a train. So you'd have, and what you typically do, and the railroads described it as a single train running in 2 sections. So in other words, the first train pulls out, the second train waits 5 minutes and follows the first one.
Along. Okay.
Yep.
Did you answer Morgan's questions? Did I interrupt you?
No, I think I answered.
Okay, good. Brian Durenick says, was there any kind of official entity within the Confederate government, i.e. individual, group, or department, to deal with the issues of railroad replacement and or repair? Or was that work left to the local officials or the closest Confederate military force in the area?
Left to the local officials for the most part. There is a meeting of railroad managers in the South in 1862 where they proposed this idea of establishing central workshops and, getting the military involved in maintaining and operating railroads, and it just doesn't fly. Because again, that's too centralized.
God damn it.
Yeah, the opportunity was there at times to do that. They just wouldn't carry it out.
It's not that I wanted them to have won, or I want them to have won.
It's just you look at it and go, you look at
it's at least
what are potential squandered opportunities.
Yeah,
right?
Try, war is not just on a battlefield.
No.
God. All right, Brian King says, how did railroad equipment operations differ between North and South? Well, we kind of went through that here. Brian's got 6 questions. Let me see if any of them are not, let's see, how were railroads on either side protected against sabotage? We did that one. We did that. And so how did Civil War shape the role of railroads? Somebody else did that. How did the Civil War share the evolution of railroads, thinking about economic and westward? We kind of did that one too. He's got 9 questions. Okay. I should have got through this before. What can I see? This is the question I saw from him that I really liked. What can I see in today's railroad operations that were brought about by the Civil War? Because, I mean, we look at every aspect of life. For example, first aid, triage, letterman.
Probably the cooperation between competing railroads, the interchange. That's the biggest thing that's still the legacy we still have today. Everything else, just the technology has changed so dramatically that we don't really see, that kind of legacy. But in the operation of transferring freight cars from one railroad to another, that sort of thing, that really develops during the war.
This is his last question here, and I think this is pretty good here because it's personalized. He says, I live near a Pennsylvania roadside marker in Bedford County, about 2 hours from Gettysburg. The marker is beside entrenchments that were dug by a militia led by Colonel J.C. Higgins, quote, against threatened Confederate attack toward the railroad in Altoona, end quote. The entrenchments are still visible. Anyway, Altoona is a bit of a railroad hub, car shops, horseshoe curve, etc. How critical was the town of Altoona in supporting the Union during the war, and was the threat of a Confederate attack realistic?
The threat is not realistic. The Confederates aren't going to go that far west. But nobody knows that at the time.
Sure.
Right? They were worried the Confederates would attack Pittsburgh. Okay, so they were building entrenchments out there as well. Altoona becomes kind of the operational hub of the Pennsylvania Railroad west of the Susquehanna River. So, he talked about the car shop. There's massive railroad shops in Altoona, which are still used today by Norfolk Southern. Mm-hmm. The horseshoe curve, of course, this incredible, way to get across the mountains. Huge freight yards in Altoona. So, it's critical as far as the Pennsylvania Railroad's operations. And the Pennsylvania Railroad is the big one. I mean, there's a reason it was called, by 1900, the standard railroad of the world. Mm-hmm. I mean, it becomes the largest business entity on the planet by the turn of the 20th century.
Okay, Adam Helwig, he says, after the Andrews Raid of 1862, also known as the Great Locomotive Chase, was there any ideas put forth to do a similar operation, or because of how the war was progressing in 1863, would it perhaps have been an unnecessary or too risky?
I think it's too risky.
Yeah.
I mean, there's raids against railroads to try to tear them up, but something along those lines of, literally stealing a train and trying to, that's awful risky. And again, you need the tools, you need the equipment, you need a lot of manpower to do the amount of damage that they were trying to do. Yeah. There's absolutely no way they could have done that kind of damage to the railroad with 22 guys to put it out of operation for any length of time.
This is a good one. How much planning, another one from Adam, how much planning went into Lincoln's funeral train back to Springfield? I'm guessing there had to be a great deal of coordination between the privately owned railroads.
There was a huge amount, yeah. So
must have been.
So here again, you're looking at, I think it's something like a dozen individual railroads that the funeral train operates over. The individual railroads provided the equipment except for the funeral car, which was built essentially as Lincoln's Air Force One.
Yeah.
Right. And that car was interesting in that it had extra wide wheels so it could operate on different gauge railroads.
Interesting.
Yeah. So they didn't have to worry about changing the gauge if they're going from a standard gauge to 4'10". The fact that the wheels were so wide allowed it to operate on different size railroads. That car the fate of that car is really amazing. It's after the war. Kind of bounces around amongst a couple different railroads. See, the U.S. military railroads auction off all of their equipment.
Yeah.
After the war's over.
Right.
And it's bought up by all these private railroads. That car was used as a passenger car. I think it's in the Midwest somewhere. And it eventually became a maintenance car. And it was destroyed in a brush fire. Ugh. So the Lincoln funeral car, the original Lincoln funeral car, does not exist. There's a reproduction of it that was manufactured a few years ago by a company out in the Midwest. But the original one's long gone.
You would think
something like that, they put in a museum almost immediately.
Yeah, I mean, and all the effort to build it and, and think it through, and you just let it go like that. Well, that's your government at work. Mm-hmm. Rob Fry says, when the Union Army captured rail lines throughout the Confederacy, did they rebuild them to match the gauges of their trains?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good question, too. Okay, and then you might have touched on this, but let's just ask it again. After the Civil War, did most railroads convert to one gauge, or did it take a while for the railroads in the South to adopt?
It's going to take a while. Yeah, so it wasn't until 1881. So incidentally, about the same time, they also adopted standardized time.
Ah, yes.
Because this was a railroad issue, is that prior to the standardized time zones in 1883, the position of the sun tells you what time it is. Mm-hmm. And as you go from east to west, that continuously changes.
Later.
So if you went into a railroad station, say in Chambersburg in 1863, there'd be 2 clocks on the wall. There's local time and railroad time. Because railroad time was based on where the headquarters of the railroad was located. And local time.
Keep all the schedules on.
Yeah.
So if the headquarters of the railroad is located in Philadelphia.
Yeah. Chambersburg's about 6 minutes different.
Yeah,
okay.
Right. According to the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. God, that's fascinating. Okay. Grant, our buddy from Australia, had a good question here. And this is our last question here, ladies and gentlemen. So last chance, if you want to call in, 717-420-1978, or do we have any things there, Mikey? Well, let me know if we do. Did either side ever attempt double tracking major lines like the Western and Atlantic during the war, or is that completely beyond their engineering and labor capacity? First of all, what is double tracking? I think I get an idea.
Double tracking is where you have 2 lines that parallel each other, so you can operate trains in 2 separate directions without having to pass one another.
Right.
Yes, some of the northern trunk lines are double tracked. The Pennsylvania Railroad was double tracked.
Yeah.
The B&O was double tracked. More than likely, the Erie and New York Central probably were double tracked because of the volume of traffic they're hauling. Southern railroads, not that I'm aware of. Now there may have been some small stretches of those lines that were double tracked, but for the most part, I know the Western Atlantic was not. That was single track with passing sidings.
I'm glad he asked that question, because I was wondering before, and I meant to ask you, and he did it there, because especially in a busy military situation, you send a train up, and you got more to send, but where does that one that got to the front? Where does he go? Does he stay up there somewhere? Is there a rail yard?
There's a siding that he can pull off and get out of the way.
Okay.
Yep.
So the second train doesn't have to wait for the first to come back.
That's the convoys that Haupt is running.
Okay.
So you don't have that situation.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, that's it. You guys, Court, Mike, any questions for our friend Rich?
No.
I thought that was really good, Rich.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So
Thanks
you
for
have very good ideas for topics.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Because they're obscure, but look at all. Oh, they're not. This isn't exactly obscure.
They're not. They're
not
not
often
battles.
covered. Yeah.
They're not often. They're not battles. They're not often covered. But still, I mean, this got a lot of questions from people.
Well, I appreciate all the questions. I appreciate you guys having me.
I think, like I said during the break, it's a topic that we don't always discuss, or these are things that are so important that we focus on the battle, but the battle's so small compared in the grand scope of what this was.
Yep.
Right.
You don't win a war without this.
That's right.
Right.
Battles are won by tacticians, strategists win logistics.
Yeah.
I think that's the quote.
Something like that.
Something like that, and that's what we're dealing with here.
Yeah. Just a little something here for everybody in the audience. If you're having issues with it, skipping and all that other stuff, refresh your page or whatever, because I'm watching it here. I'm not getting any of that stuff. It's your connection. Sorry, Mikey's watching it too. We're on the same connection that is being broadcast on, and we're not having any problems.
The hamster's running on the wheel.
The hamster's running, yeah.
Maybe
He's still alive. I got a new one for Christmas because the other one died.
He's really fast.
Yeah, he's a very fast hamster.
Lightning internet.
Very, very, very fast. By the way, I wanted to tell you, I've meant to do a live read about this and I forgot to. Save the date, ladies and gentlemen, April 12th. If you're a patron over at patreon.com/addressing Gettysburg, you already have access to tickets for our live show at the Totem Pole Theater. And we're going to do an Ask a Guide there. All the details are not. I don't have anything ironed out yet, but we have some ideas and all that stuff. But you can get tickets now. That's because you're patrons. The general public, if you're interested in that, tickets will go on sale to the general public via the Totem Pole's website a month out from the show. So April 12th. And so, March, probably 12th or 1st, I don't know. It'll be available to everybody else. So, but, one of the other perks for being a patron over there, you get first dibs, ladies and gentlemen. And I had a fight to get you guys that link. I did. No, I didn't. They were very happy to give it to them. Usually, the way it works is the Totem Pole, they've got their paying members. And they put their schedule out in January, and the members can go and buy tickets for anything they want for the whole year. And then they open it to the general public later. So, their members get first dibs. And I said, well, my members need first dibs too.
There you go.
So we get first 1A dibs.
Great job, man.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mikey. I knew you would be proud of me for that. So that's it, there, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed the return. Let's see, is this the? No, that's not it. Yes, it is. No, yes. I think, I hope you enjoyed the return of Ask a Gettysburg Guide. Sorry, I got a little distracted there. Go over to Patreon and check out an interview I did with Bruce Boxleitner today for 3 hours. We had a 3-hour interview with Bruce Boxleitner. A lot of fun guy. I've spent the last 3 days with him, and we laugh. That's all we do is laugh. And I'll bring him to Sea Court someday soon. We'll be back in 2 weeks, and I don't know what the topic's going to be, but we'll see you then. All right? You guys have a great one. And I'm just stalling until the post. Mike? The post? Trying to hit the post. It's when the music comes back in. There it is.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Gettysburg Guide is hosted by Matt Callery with Mikey B. Bariski, and Courtney Micker. Produced by Matt Callery and Courtney Micker. Guides appear gratis, but they would love for you to hire them for a tour on your next visit to the battlefield. To be put in touch with one, send an email to matt@addressinggettysburg.com. Thanks for watching.
Our hearts so stout have got us fame, for sweet is known from whence we came. Wherever we go, they dread the name of Gary Owen in glory. Instead, follow, drink down and hail